It has been 30 years since Age of Apocalypse first graced the pages of comic books and opened up a dark timeline where the death of Charles Xavier ushered in the rule of Apocalypse. Jeff Loeb, a writer who contributed to the original run of Age of Apocalypse, has now brought another story, Arch through X-Men of Apocalypse, with art from Simone Di Meo. Let's explore this wonderful comic, but not before you double-check to make sure you have subscribed and turned on the notification for our wonderful channel. Done? Then we can begin. The Need for Freedom. Near the grounds of Charles Xavier's Institute, Nate Gray, or X-Man, is surprised and shocked to see the people he recognizes from his own universe: Forge, Sabretooth, Gambit, Wildchild, Morph, and Blink. He knows that he was the only one who crossed over realities, but Forge tells him that their chronometers pulled them together as they were both temporal anomalies. Before words could be exchanged, Wildchild attacks him, not knowing that he was from their home universe and that he posed no threat. Nate tries to calm Wildchild using his powers as a telepath, but his mind was completely blank. Blink asks Sabretooth to call off Wildchild as he has no idea what he is doing, and with the help of Gambit, they help save the losing Wildchild. Gambit, however, is a stronger opponent as he had brought along with him Magneto's helmet that stopped telepaths from accessing his mind. Before the two could damage each other, Forge asks Morph to contain Gambit. Morph contains Gambit as Morph does and puts him in a giggly bubble. Forge then asks Nate to look into his mind to confirm that they were his friends. Nate accepts the invite and promises to decimate him if he finds out that Forge was lying. As Nate enters his mind, he sees everything he remembers of the time he spent with Forge, Forge's mentorship and protection, and how Forge's teaching gave them both purpose. Nate, still in disbelief, asked how, and Forge assured him that he would always be there for him. Nate immediately enveloped Forge in a hug, the loneliness and fear he had felt in the alien reality melting with the hug. Nate still has a lot of questions. Why were they here? How did they find him? And Forge asks him to mind link, as that would make it easier to explain. Forge explains the real reason for their visit. Though the Age of Apocalypse had ended, their universe still carried on, and when it ended, Nate was plucked from his timeline and deposited in the Age of Xavier. The mutants from the Age of Apocalypse believed that their timeline was the correct one, and Age of Xavier should not exist. So they were there to set things right, and now, with the help of Nate, Forge believed it would be accomplished sooner. Forge wants Nate to extract information that Xavier has to help their mission. Nate is hesitant, as he knows Xavier is a powerful mutant, but Forge assures him that Xavier is not more powerful than Nate. The X-Men versus the X-Men. From behind the trees, a voice announces that he has heard enough. As his claws sprout forth, we see Wolverine and his uncontrolled rage that had pushed him to live on the grounds of the Xavier estate, just in case he attacked one of his teammates. Wolverine rushes forth with his claws out and attacks Sabretooth, who is confused to see Weapon X in a yellow suit. The narrator assures R, whatever the time, day, month, universe, reality might be, when Sabretooth and Wolverine are put together, they are gonna fight. Wolverine feels like something is amiss as Sabretooth's scent is different. If anyone would know Sabretooth, it's Wolverine, given all the times they have tussled. Logan isn't the only one hesitating as Sabretooth notices that Wolverine has two hands and bone claws, unlike the adamantium claws of Logan in his timeline. Bishop intervenes with his gun, and he too is shocked that he can recognize people he had seen on the other side of his reality. He fears of losing his grip on insanity as he wonders about whether the temporal anomaly that caused him to journey to Age of Apocalypse really happened. Bishop takes down Forge in the blink of an eye. Wolverine asks whether Bishop knows them, but Bishop does not have a solid answer. He explains that they were X-Men from another timeline and they shouldn't technically exist there. Wolverine points to the contrasting evidence at this technicality. Nate asks everyone to stop, telling them that enough death and destruction has been inflicted by mutants on their own kind. Bishop projects his thoughts to Charles Xavier, and Nate hears his thoughts and warns Forge about the incoming reinforcements. Storm, Cyclops, and Beast rush out to help Wolverine, with Xavier following close behind on his hovercraft thingamajig. Gambit recognizes Bishop as the one they sent to change everything. Bishop replies that if that's true, he has failed in his mission. As Cyclops beams his laser sight on Forge, he asks them whether they are clones or doppelgangers, or sentinels, but Forge replies that they are the X-Men. Storm refuses to believe it, as she knows of no X-Men who would side with Magneto. Gambit sees the irony of the age of Xavier, where someone as noble as Magneto is considered the villain. He takes off the helmet to show that he is not Magneto, and Storm wonders how Remy's outside when she just left his bedside, where he is suffering from a coma thanks to his kiss from Rogue. Remy's heart immediately deserts the mission and asks Storm where he can find Rogue. When he had accepted the mission, he had done so with the hope of finding Rogue in a reality where he does not desert him for Magneto. Through the mind link, Forge reminds Nate that his target is Xavier. He begins to get inside Charles's head, and before any of the X-Men can jump to the aid of their beloved professor, Nate puts them all to sleep with the command to wake up with no memory of that day's events. Though Nate gets what he wants, the X-Men leave with a sense of uncanniness, knowing the loyalty the X-Men who were just beaten shared. Using Charles's memories, Nate takes them to another time. Forge tells him that he didn't have to accompany them, but Nate disagrees as he was so lost in this universe and was only looking to find his home. Sabretooth is not really trusting of Nate, as he is a product of Sinister's experiments and demands to know where they are. Gambit reminds them that it's not where, but when, and that when is at the beginning of Charles Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters, where Charles asks his students to assemble as class is in session. The first class, consisting of the Angel, Iceman, the Beast, and his golden boy, Cyclops, rush in to report to Xavier, who intends to teach his students to protect and serve a world that only has hatred and fear for them. This was where it all began. And if all goes well for the X-Men from the Age of Apocalypse, this is where it would all end. Verdict. I know I praise the art every single time with these comics, but honestly, the colouring is phenomenal. I felt the warmth of the sun as the story carried on. Coming to the story, the Age of Xavier has to exist, if not for the peace and eventual human-mutant harmony, then for the visionary that is Xavier himself. I don't think Xavier will be killed, and have a sneaky suspicion that he will be able to get through to the X-Men from the Apocalypse regime. What are your predictions for the next issue of X-Men of Apocalypse? Let us know in the comments below, and if you liked the video, tap on that thumbs up. We will soon be back with more awesome stuff, and until then, goodbye.